So you've been Secretary of State since 2018. What makes you now kind of want to take that next step and run for governor?
Well, I'm running for governor to make Georgia affordable and safe. And I've been traveling all over this, state since I've been elected as Secretary of State, and obviously running now as governor. But I'm really hearing the same thing right now, is that people are hurting, people are struggling. They're dealing with economic issues, really, cost of rent, cost of a house, food, health care, and now gas prices, have gone up. Thank goodness that Governor Kemp went ahead and for 60 days, said no gas tax. I think that's a big thing, but they're still hurting. And the other thing is, if that's not enough on their plate, they're worrying about, safety. They're worrying about safety at home, but then also at schools. And then really as it relates to schools, they're, they remember when they learned about the ABCs, and now schools, some of them are focused on the DEI, and it's showing up in our test scores.
And so what are kind of some of those top issues that you want to tackle as governor?
Well, number one, the best way I think of dealing with affordability is you want to make sure you create great paying jobs. Create great paying jobs, you can change a person's life. And then number two, capping property assessments across the entire state of Georgia for everyone. And for our seniors, eliminating all property taxes except for essential services. And then also for seniors, eliminating all income tax on retirement benefits. That'll make a go big way of helping Georgians from all over the state, all 159 counties.
And we were just kind of talking about this just a second ago, but affordability seems to be the top of mind for most folks. If you were to go out and talk to folks on the street, they'd say that stuff just costs way too much. So what could maybe you do as governor to try and make the cost of living go down?
Well, one of the big things will actually be reshoring. President Trump says he wants to bring manufacturing back to America. And as your next governor, I'm going to make sure we bring it back to Georgia. So that's my big focus. It'll be advanced manufacturing with great paying jobs. Look at some of the announcement that Governor Kemp is still, finishing up real strong because he's working in partnership with the Trump, campaign. For 4 years he was fighting the Biden administration. Now he's got someone that wants to build and restore jobs back to America, and that's been, Governor Kemp's, big strength is 75% of all of his economic development has been outside the metro Atlanta region. And I think that's good for all of Georgia. And as your next governor, that'll be my focus, creating great paying jobs really through reshoring, advanced manufacturing, helping the companies you already have here, like Husky. Here they are in the Macon-Bibb area. They look at that, they're gonna double another plant expansion, and so they're continue to invest in the region. So you wanna look at people that are here, help them grow, and then also people that aren't here, attract them to Georgia. We got a lot of great tools in the toolkit to do that, but best thing is we got a ready workforce, and that'll be important.
One big issue that we're seeing down here, a lot of folks have concerns about, is the data centers. Some folks say, hey, our communities really need this money, our schools need this, and we need jobs. Other folks say, I don't want this thing anywhere near me. Where do you kind of fall with this, and what the state's role should kind of be with this?
Well, I think you just said it right there. It's really a county by county decision. What I would be really concerned about, I just want to make sure that the taxpayers, the ratepayers, are never stuck with stranded costs. Because what happens if all of a sudden you build new power generation, and it's designed for 50 years life, 40 years life, but all of a sudden this whole idea of data centers gets bypassed by something else, or they find out they don't need as much power, and then who pays for that stranded cost? So I never want the taxpayers on the hook for it. But it's a county by county decision. Depends where you are. I know down in Blakely, Georgia, Early County, they had a Georgia Pacific paper mill shut down, and they're looking at that, and other places are saying, well, we don't want it, we don't need it. So county by county.
And there seems like there's almost two tribes up in Atlanta of Republicans who want to maybe eliminate the income tax or severely cut it, and those folks who really want to go after property taxes and trying to cap that and cut those as well. And where do you kind of fall in line with tax policy?
Number one is making sure we cap property taxes right now for all assessments statewide to stop the bleed. And then for our seniors, making sure we eliminate all taxes except for essential services. I think those would go a big way. See, the Senate, when they're talking about their plan, they're talking about theirs doing over 7 years. But ask someone that's 75 years old, would you like your tax, cut now, for property tax reduction, or would you like it over 7 years, taking the income tax down to zero? So my way is much more effective, and it's a lot faster, and it's really where people are hurt right now. Coming out of COVID, house prices went for, say, $300,000, then all of a sudden they're up to $500,000. Well, so did their assessments, and the counties got way ahead of themselves. So we need to cap property tax assessments for everyone. and we need to make sure we look out for our seniors.
And it seems in Georgia that right now Metro Atlanta is just booming like crazy, and parts of our coast are as well. But it can certainly seem like, I think for some people, like maybe Central Georgia, Middle Georgia, South Georgia, and maybe really more our rural counties are kind of falling behind a little bit. How can we ensure that growth and good jobs and things like that come to the more rural parts of our state?
Well, I think that's our focus, and that'll be my focus as governor, but also, President Trump is trying to reshore manufacturing back to America. We realize we ship way too much over to China, and some of that can come right back to Georgia. First of all, in Houston County, we have the Grand Farm, UGA's, it's really advanced agricultural technology. So that'll include, drones, really what you can do to improve the process for farming so they can actually make some money, because it's really been tough for several years. But also there'll be then spin-offs of the manufacturing, that will be involved in the ag space. That's really important. But then looking at just basic industries, bringing back advanced skills. So that means we're gonna have to get back into trades and education in high schools. There's a 5 million person shortage of electricians in America right now. We have our shortage in Georgia. Looking at welders and then supply chain. All these different skilled craft workers are going to be there, and they can come out of high school making $25 to $35 an hour. I submit when someone's 18 years old making that kind of money, no student loan debt, that's a good paying job, maybe even a great paying job to them for sure. And they're making over $100,000 a year. So that's a big part of it. And making sure we've been great, with our Quick Start, but making sure our career technical colleges, university, biomedical, biomechanical, engineering programs, tech space. And so our universities have a great role to play too. But it all goes back to fourth grade level, improving our reading and, making sure that we can catch up to Mississippi, because sadly, they're ranked number 9 right now, and we're in the 20s. And we can do that in 5 years. With the program that I've laid out.
Now, Governor Kemp is leaving office after 2 terms in office, another Republican governor. He's generally very popular among Republicans here in Georgia.
Very popular.
What would you keep and what would you change from kind of the Kemp legacy?
I'm looking at what he does, and he's really done it really well. He's going to leave office as the most popular Republican governor in the entire country, and probably the most popular governor, period. He's just done a great job of leadership and making sure, first of all, 75% of that economic development you talked about has been in rural areas, not Metro Atlanta. I think that's huge. That's huge for the state. It balances everything out, so everyone has a good future. And then looking at what's next over the horizon. And, since I'm a structural engineer, I look at, and I've had a manufacturing plant. My first plant was in Columbus, Georgia, 105,000 square feet there. My second plant was in Forsyth County. I understand manufacturing, what people are looking for. We did plastic extrusion, we did stud welding, so we had some steel, we had plastic fabrication and extrusion, so we did different types. And so people are looking for advanced skill, labor force for it, and then making sure that they have just a great business climate. And I think what you'll see in Georgia, we've always had a pro-business climate because we understand it creates jobs. And then when it creates good paying jobs, then people have a good future. And we want people to have a great future. That'll be my major focus, is creating great paying jobs and capping those property taxes.
Now, you have been presiding over our elections for 2 terms as Secretary of State. Is this experience something that you're kind of leaning in as you're making your pitch to voters?
Well, actually, we have done so much in so many different areas. Fox News said that we ran the best elections. The state Georgia and Florida run the best elections. And then the Heritage Foundation in 2021 said, we were #1 for election integrity, but UGA does polling, and they gave us a 92% approval, that voters just really trusted the election. And trust is really the gold standard in society. But here in Macon-Bibb, we actually handle our professional licensing with our new system in place, and you were there for our new office, but in September, our goals program was up and running. And for example, brand new nurse getting their license for the very first time. With the old system, paper-based, it took 48 days. We got it down to 18 days immediately. Now it's down to 10 days. That's 38 days that someone has now been able to get out there and work faster. We look at that. We expedite, move military families to the front line. That's really important, obviously, with Robins Air Force just down the road. So we're going to look at, we did look at license reform. And then #1 is we are right now in securities and charities, trying to make sure we get money back, people that were defrauded $140 million in a Ponzi scheme. So every area that we've touched, very diversified, which really tees it up for someone that wants to be governor, because of a lot of diversity, having to build a strong team and make sure you always put people first. And I'm the only person running for governor that has beaten Stacey Abrams multiple times in a court to make sure we can check citizenship so only American citizens are registered, only American citizens are voting in our elections.
Now, there are 8 Republican candidates who have qualified to run for governor, but right now it almost seems like the Burt Jones and Rick Jackson have kind of sucked up all the oxygen around the race. You know, their ads are going back and forth and things like that. How can you kind of get voters to say, hey, wait a second, look at me and how I stand out from kind of the rest of the pack?
Well, I already do know that I stand out because they're lobbing firebombs at each other and hand grenades over the backyard fence. You know, I'm just staying true to what I'm at. I'm talking to voters, what's important to them. And number one is affordability, and that's by creating good paying jobs, capping property taxes, and then doing something about public safety. Governor Kemp, wisely led with $50,000 of school safety grants. I want to raise that to $100,000 school safety grants, but also I want to broaden that to be not just public schools, but also charter schools, private schools, faith-based schools. So it includes all schools, all kids will be safe. We think that's really important. And then obviously improving, getting the trades education back down into our high schools, making sure that people are ready and career ready, because that's important for businesses.
I think that's all I've got for you today. Anything else you want to add?
No, obviously I'm running for governor to make things affordable and safe for everyone. And as their next governor, I'll stand for Georgia no matter what. I've proven that that's what I'll do. No matter what, I stand for you.